In Africa, many countries have long been held back by weak infrastructure. Even though we're well into the 21st century, the entire continent has only one country with a high-speed rail system, Morocco. Built largely with French support, Morocco's high-speed rail officially opened in 2018, making it the first African nation to achieve that milestone. But now, Africa is about to welcome its second country with high-speed rail, Nigeria. Just a couple of weeks ago, Nigeria's decade-long high-speed rail plan finally made real progress. This massive project carries a staggering $60 billion price tag, with the goal of building a 4,000-kilometer network that links the country's key economic and transportation hubs. The big question is, where will Nigeria get that kind of money? And more importantly, what would a $60 billion high-speed rail system mean for Nigeria's future? If you like our video content, please click to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can receive all our latest video content. Now, let's get into today's topic. Since China launched the Belt and Road Initiative in 2013, 12 years have already passed. Over these years, cooperation between China and Africa has grown closer and closer. So far, more than 40 African countries have worked with China in areas covering infrastructure, energy, trade, investment, technology, education, and more. In East Africa, under the Belt and Road Initiative, China helped Kenya build the Mombasa-Nairobi Railway, connecting the main port city of Mombasa with the capital, Nairobi, which greatly improved local transportation efficiency. In Ethiopia, China also took part in building the Addis Ababa Light Rail, the first urban light rail in East Africa, which revived the capital's night economy. The expansion project of Dar es Salaam port in Tanzania likewise received China's support, which clearly boosted the region's trade capacity. And now, China has taken on another mega project in Africa, investing $60 billion to build a 4,000-kilometer high-speed rail line in Nigeria. Across the entire African continent, Nigeria is the largest economy and the most populous country, with a total population close to 220 million. In recent years, its economic growth has consistently ranked first in Africa. Back in the 1970s, Nigeria was already Africa's largest oil producer. Decades later, it still remains the continent's #1 oil exporter. Relying on its rich oil resources, Nigeria was able to strengthen its national economy in just a short span of a few decades. But with the rapid growth of its population and continuous economic development, transportation demand has also become increasingly important. Yet if you have ever been to Nigeria, you will find that its transportation infrastructure is far behind. For example, its railway system is still mostly made up of old, narrow-gauge tracks left from the British colonial era. Because of years of neglect, train operations are extremely inefficient, and about 70% of locomotives nationwide are in urgent need of repair or replacement. While Nigeria does have some airports and flight routes, the high ticket prices make them completely unaffordable for ordinary people. At present, many people still rely on cheap road transportation to get around. But the problem is, out of nearly 200,000 kilometers of roads nationwide, more than 60% are not even paved. Especially in the southeast and northwest, constant rainy seasons and lack of funding have left many sections badly damaged. About 40% of roads are in a state of long-term disrepair. But now, Nigeria has made up its mind to completely change this situation. Just half a month ago, the Nigerian government officially announced a massive high-speed rail project. The total investment is a staggering $60 billion, which includes not only the construction of the high-speed railway, but also the development of natural gas resources. The planned rail network will stretch over 4,000 kilometers, making it one of the largest infrastructure projects in Africa's history. But what many people don't know is that the planning for this high-speed rail actually started more than a decade ago. Back in 2010, the Nigerian government signed a cooperation agreement with China to build a high-speed rail line from the capital, Abuja, to the country's largest port city, Lagos, with a total length of about 1,200 kilometers. However, as Africa's #1 oil exporter, Nigeria's economy was heavily dependent on oil, and at the time, the sharp fluctuations in global oil prices directly impacted its fiscal revenue. Although China followed through and offered loan support, Nigeria's own financial difficulties, combined with instability in the global economy, meant that the funds were never fully secured on schedule. In the end, the project was put on hold in 2014. Of course, political factors also played a big role in stalling the project. Frequent changes in government, along with low administrative efficiency, made it hard to maintain continuity or keep the project as a policy priority. And even if the project had gone ahead, the presence of terrorist groups and frequent local conflicts would almost certainly have disrupted construction sites and slowed down progress. In hindsight, putting the project on pause might actually have been the right call. But here we are in 2025, and many of those problems have improved. The Nigerian government has remained committed to pushing the high-speed rail project forward, hoping to use this infrastructure to improve domestic transportation and drive economic growth. By August 2025, reports revealed that Nigeria's $60 billion high-speed rail project is set to restart, with about 90% of the preliminary approval process already completed. That means it could enter the actual construction phase at any time. If this rail system is successfully built, Nigeria will officially become the second country in Africa to have high-speed rail. But with such a massive project, the real questions remain: who will build it, and who will provide the funding? From what I know, the first phase of Nigeria's high-speed rail project will be funded by the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. This bank was established under China's leadership, with the main purpose of providing financing support for major infrastructure projects around the world. In recent years, the AIIB has already invested in several African countries, and the number of African member states has now reached 16. With funding secured, the next step is finding a reliable construction partner. And naturally, that role goes to China. Some people may not be very familiar with China's high-speed rail, and after seeing exaggerated or distorted information online, they might assume it's not very good or even unsafe. But the truth is quite the opposite. China's high-speed rail has already been exported to more than 40 countries and regions across Asia, Europe, Africa, and beyond. Globally, China's operating high-speed rail mileage now exceeds 48,000 kilometers, the longest in the world by far. When it comes to international bidding, Chinese high-speed rail has clear advantages. The construction speed is faster, and the overall costs are much lower than European or Japanese solutions, which makes it highly competitive. On top of that, China's approach to exporting high-speed rail is never just about selling a few trains or providing blueprints. From the earliest stages of surveying and design, to financing, construction, equipment supply, personnel training, and even long-term operation and maintenance, Chinese companies are able to deliver a full, mature, and integrated solution. That's why Nigeria's decision to hand over this high-speed rail project to Chinese companies is not only logical, but also the right choice. Actually, this isn't the first time Nigeria has turned to China for help in building railways. As early as 2014, the two countries began working together on high-speed rail projects. The first to break ground was the line from Abuja to Kaduna, stretching about 186 kilometers. With a design speed of 150 kilometers per hour, it officially went into operation in July 2016. Once it opened, it became the very first high-speed railway in Nigeria's history. Soon after, China also helped Nigeria build the Lagos-Ibadan Railway, which started operating in June 2021. Together with the Abuja-Kaduna line, these two railways, one in the north and one in the south, greatly eased the transportation pressure between Nigeria's major cities. In addition to these two completed projects, China and Nigeria have also signed two more railway contracts, one for the Kaduna, Kano line and another for the Ibadan-Kaduna line. Both projects will gradually enter the construction phase in the coming years. Altogether, the total investment for these 4 railways has already exceeded $8.3 billion, and most of that funding has actually come from China, provided to Nigeria in the form of loans. At this point, you might be asking the same question I did. Why is China willing to put up such a huge amount of money to help Nigeria build railways? What exactly is the purpose behind all this? Everyone knows that Nigeria is a country rich in natural resources. Its proven oil reserves are around 37 billion barrels, ranking second in Africa and 11th in the world. At the same time, it is Africa's largest oil producer and exporter. As one of the world's biggest energy consumers, China needs to import large amounts of oil, natural gas, and other energy products every year. To secure a long-term and stable supply, China has chosen to invest in African infrastructure in exchange for priority rights in oil field development and petroleum trade. This resources for projects model allows China to lock in stable oil imports for the long run. And by investing in high-speed rail and infrastructure in Africa, China has also managed to open the door to the huge West African market. After all, Nigeria is the most populous country in Africa and the continent's largest economy. But here's the strange part. Even though this is a win-win cooperation, some Western countries always jump in to criticize it, accusing China of creating a so-called debt trap in Africa, claiming that infrastructure projects are becoming an economic burden. So why are they so eager to stop China's influence in Africa? In reality, the West's hype about China's debt trap in Africa is driven much more by interests. Africa has long been considered the West's sphere of influence. For centuries, Western countries exploited natural resources here, leaving behind chaos, political instability, and severe environmental damage. Even though the colonial era ended long ago, the aftereffects of that history are still present today. Now, through the Belt and Road Initiative, China has built large amounts of transportation infrastructure in Africa. Just in railways alone, over 10,000 kilometers have been built or upgraded, along with nearly 100,000 kilometers of highways. These projects have genuinely transformed transportation in many parts of Africa and significantly expanded China's influence, while the West's presence has slowly been pushed to the margins. From what I know, many Chinese companies working on African projects don't just handle construction. They bring entire supply chains with them, including steel, locomotives, and building materials. That directly squeezes out the market share that used to belong to Western companies. On top of that, while China invests in infrastructure, it also signs long-term cooperation agreements for oil, natural gas, and minerals, directly challenging the West's control over resource channels. Take Nigeria as an example. Its main oil fields have long been dominated by Western companies. If China ramps up its investment, that piece of the resource pie once controlled by the West will need to be redivided. But African countries today aren't naive. They clearly know who can bring them tangible benefits, and they'll choose to work with partners they truly trust and can negotiate with. So, what do you think? To not miss out on our future projects and news updates, please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. We will continue to provide you with more exciting and interesting content.